amazingly offensive, challenging you to think offensively, challenging you to be a part of the team. This is not regular interference. This is offensive interference. With the baldest man in entertainment, me, Nick Cellini. And welcome to Offensive Interference. Yes, we are new to the world of the podcast, but things are going to get better and better and better as time goes on. In fact, we'll talk some NFL in about 10 minutes or so, and we'll talk about who is being called the most explosive player so far in training camp for the Atlanta Falcons. But in the meantime, I am joined by an attorney, by an accountant, by a retired firefighter, and by my life partner. We're going to go to New York and get married in about 2 weeks. Ray Vogt is here. So not only will I be bisexual, I will also be a polygamist.
I'm a little uncomfortable with the direction this conversation's taken already.
Well, you never know where offensive interference is going to go.
Well, you know, the great state of New York, they've got Wienergate going on right now. So, you know, an interesting place to be.
If there was ever a fitting name,
yes,
Wiener is very fitting for the man that goes by Carlos Danger. But another story for another day. Ray, the reason you're joining me primarily today is you were nice enough to join me last week as we went to New Orleans to visit with the Steve Gleason family. And for those that are not familiar with what I did not too long ago, it was a terrible knock-knock joke or jokes that went sideways as a result.
Yeah.
I am here doing a podcast, but we felt like, among other things, it was important to go there and talk to the family, look them in the eye, and explain to them that this was just a bad 90 seconds, a bad 2 minutes. Fortunately for us, they were more than gracious.
Absolutely. Great people. You know, we met with Steve Gleason's brother-in-law, Vinny. Had a great dinner and conversation with him on Thursday night. You know, really, you know, I think we talked about by the end of the evening, it was just kind of like a good night in Atlanta with our regular buddies. You know, he had some tough questions for you, I think, and, you know, you answered them and he was satisfied and we moved on.
You know, I was unfamiliar with the fact that we talked to a filmmaker, documentarian, Sean Pamphilon is the gentleman's name. He was really the guy that took down Greg Williams, and some would say he used Steve Gleason to get access inside of the Saints locker room when they took on the 49ers in the postseason a couple of years back. Mm-hmm. And we took him to task. I completely forgot about that. And when we had dinner with Vinny, his brother-in-law, that night, he said, no, the family understands, because I wanted to make it kind of plain and simple to him that we weren't a bunch of shock jocks just going for the cheap pop, even though in this instance that's what it was. Mm-hmm. But it was only an instance. But he brought up the fact that we grilled Sean Pamphilon, saying that you essentially used, we told Sean Pamphilon, Steve Gleason. They remember that, and fortunately that made the conversation a little bit easier to have.
I think so, yeah. I mean, there was a little bit of history there, track record, where, you know, it wasn't like you guys were out to get Steve Gleason anywhere along the way. You actually had his back at one point in time. And, you know, that's good to know. People have long memories sometimes for the good things as well as the bad things.
Well, let's hope they have short memories when it comes to certain knock-knock jokes. But the following day, we have a meeting with Steve's father-in-law.
Right.
And Steve's father-in-law is essentially spearheading the new facility that they're putting together there. The plan is to have a Steve Gleason ALS facility where the ALS patients can live as independently as possible. It would be only the second one in the nation. There's one up in Boston. There would be one in New Orleans. And he kind of toured the facility, and Big Paul kind of busted my agates a little bit.
Well, he did, you know, and I mean, it's kind of a good New Orleans story overall if you think about it, because what they've done is they've gone into a hospital facility that was wiped out in Katrina. It's been reclaimed, remodeled. You know, what we saw was obviously a beautiful modern facility, freshly redone. I believe it's mostly sort of a retirement or senior living type place at this point. And they're taking a wing of it and sort of bringing in all the latest and greatest in technology for people with ALS. So sort of the technology we're familiar with at this point with the computer that allows them to speak. Well, now people will be able to control their blinds, control their AC, control their television, and live a little bit more independently with the ALS condition. And
Big Paul Varisco is the gentleman's name. Steve Gleason's father-in-law, Vinny Varisco, is the son. I thought it was a good sign when Big Paul kind of busted my agates, as I said earlier as well. I think it helps that I'm Italian, he's Italian, so
sure.
I think we were on the same page. And again, he understood where we were coming from as well. The biggest thing, and the thing that kind of took me by surprise as we concluded our tour, Big Paul said, look, if you ever need us to call somebody on your behalf, to vouch for you, so to speak, we'll do that. I mean, it's one thing to meet with us. It's
Right.
another thing to say that at the
Yeah.
end of the conversation.
Yeah, no, you're right. He did come out of the chute, and he did give you a little bit of a hard time, and I took that as a positive right there. We come from a great group of ball busters, as it were. So that's how people know somebody likes you when they're busting your stones, and we had a good talk. And I mean, I think he gave you a couple ribs there to let you know that that was pretty stupid, but we're moving on. And I think he said Steve was moving on and moving forward, and there's you've made some pledges out there on some things you're going to do, and people like me are going to be holding you to it down the road. And I think it was just a truly positive trip. Glad you did it.
For those that don't know, the promise that I made to people in New Orleans was once I started working full time again in radio, podcast, what have you, and the money started coming in, my first month's salary is going to go to fight ALS, be it with ALS in Atlanta, Team Gleason, what have you, and guys like you are going to hold my feet to the fire, and rightfully so.
Yeah, well, absolutely. Stick with what you said you were going to do, and we'll go forward. And exciting new start here with the podcast too.
Now, that was a great meeting, or meetings, that we had with Vinny Verisco and then Paul Verisco, the in-laws, if you will, of Steve Gleason. Then we went to the casino.
Do we have to rehash that?
That meeting wasn't so kind.
No. It certainly wasn't our night at the tables.
Thanks to you, one of the hands really went sideways.
Yeah.
I thought I taught you how to play blackjack.
I guess my head was just in the clouds at that point. Either that, or I was just too tired and too drunk or something, and wanted to get out of there.
There's a simple rule. There are 2 bus cards. You stand pat, no matter what, or you double down, depending upon the cards that you have when you see the dealer showing a 5 or a 6. The dealer in this instance was showing a 6, and you had what?
16.
And what did you do?
I hit.
And the guy next to you had how much money on the table? Not me. The guy on the other side.
Well, I think he was at the same point for the night because he had put all of his money up on the table, and I counted about $1,000 total. I know I saw at least 6 black chips in there and a bunch of green ones, and so there was about $1,000 on the table. The fact that he didn't punch me in the head as he walked away from the table, he showed great restraint.
I almost punched you in the head.
Yeah.
I had nothing to do with it.
Well,
you took the dealer's bus card and you cost the man $1,000.
I looked over. You just had your head in your palms, and you just were shaking your head, questioning what I had done. And I knew I'd done it as soon as I had. I blame the dealer. He should have stopped me. The dealer should have been smarter and stopped me from doing that.
You're right about that. Sometimes the dealer has to say, are you really sure you want to hit on this? And that dealer never said that. No. Perhaps he recognized me being from Atlanta, and I paid the price. But again, in all seriousness, want to thank Todd Graffanini. He's the voice of the Tulane Green Wave. We've known Todd for a long time. He kind of brokered the meeting with the Verisco family, the in-laws of Steve Gleason, and everything could not have gone better. And again, if there's a nicer family any place than the Verisco family and the Gleason family as well, I'd like to know who that family is or families are.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Onward and upward with the podcast. We are going to be covering football. We are going to be covering anything going on around Atlanta and then some as we come to you from the Punchline Studios in beautiful Sandy Springs, Georgia. And Ray, you know what that means. Since we are coming to you from the Punchline Studios, every once in a while, we're going to have some comics sauntering through that door.
Well, yeah, and I think it gives you a good opportunity to have a little bit of a different mix in the podcast as it goes forward.
And again, I can get out of the house, and my wife can stop telling me what to do. I'm going to tell you what's coming up next. We're going to talk about Colin Kaepernick. Not only did he beat the Falcons, and then in the offseason, he trained on your dime, you, the taxpayers in Atlanta. It's the podcast called Offensive Interference.
ALS doesn't just kill you. It shuts you down, little by little, bit by bit.
It starts small. Maybe it's holding a pencil that gets difficult.
Or getting up from your chair.
Then you find it hard to turn the pages of your book.
Because you can't move your fingers.
Your mind keeps working, but your body doesn't respond.
You won't see it coming because no one knows where it comes from.
Soon you can't hug your mother or pick up your child.
You won't be able to tie your shoes.
You don't need to tie your shoes because now you can't walk.
You can't eat or shave.
Or laugh or sing.
First you can't catch the ball, then you can't catch your breath.
ALS doesn't just kill you.
It steals your life. a little bit at a time.
And it doesn't stop until there's nothing left.
Unless we stop it first.
Unless we stop it now.
I'm Steve Gleason. Let's put our heads together and find a cure for ALS.
Welcome back to Offensive Interference with yours truly, Nick Cellini. Ray Vogt, my buddy, is here. Are you also my business manager? Is that what?
I think that's what we've agreed upon at this point.
Right.
But
Well, I didn't sign anything yet. So.
Well, the only thing I'm looking at is a contract. You have to have a bargain acceptance and consideration.
What's he saying?
I'm saying money. I'm not getting any money out of this,
No,
so
you're
I
not.
don't know if we have a contract or not.
But I think you got a few free meals over the years. But listen,
Once or twice.
why split hairs at this point? That was Steven Jackson, incidentally, we heard coming back in, the new running back for the Falcons. And Steven Jackson, having met the man, is anything but portly, unlike the guy who ran the ball last year in Michael Turner. I don't want to say anything too negative about Michael Turner. He did great work for the Falcons, but over the last year and a half or so, he clearly wasn't the same guy that came into this club back in 2008, Matt Ryan's rookie season. Let's face it, he was the MVP of that 2008 Falcons team that shocked everybody when they went 11-5. It wasn't Matt Ryan. Well, now it's Matt Ryan's team. And Michael Turner, last year in minicamp, I caught some flack for this because I think his listed weight was about 240, 245. Michael Turner was at least 260 pounds at minicamp. Michael Turner had a history of groin injuries, had some surgeries, and probably couldn't train the way he wanted to train. And he tried to deny it. But I know what I saw.
Average weight. Maybe that was an average.
Listen, I know what I saw. And I also have had the chance to meet Steven Jackson. Steven Jackson will not be confused with Michael Turner in any way, shape, or form. He is a monster. He is in not good shape. He is in great shape, impeccable shape. And he said, I took less money to come to the Falcons because now I want to play for a championship. He said 5 years ago, no way do I take less money. He could have went elsewhere. He came here, and I think that is going to be that dimension. Hey, don't forget, we'll talk about Colin Kaepernick in just a second and how he trained on Atlanta's dime this offseason. But Colin Kaepernick and the Niners come in here as the Falcons blew a 28-6 lead. And really, they kept getting the ball back because I know that Matt Ryan fumbled a shotgun snap. He also threw an interception, but they couldn't run the ball. Michael Turner went out of the game in the third quarter. They had virtually no running game. That's not going to be a problem provided Steven Jackson stays healthy this year. And that's the one missing component this team didn't have last year.
Well, here's a man who's obviously putting his money where his mouth is, and he must feel very strongly about the Falcons and their chances to go ahead and finish what they started last season.
And it's the Falcon way. He's also a very good guy off the field. He said he had a conversation when he was thinking about signing with the Falcons with Arthur Blank. They had their lunch together. Normally, Arthur closes people at New York Prime or Chops, two fancy steakhouses here in the city of Atlanta. They had lunch someplace. Perhaps they went to Subway. I don't know. The point is, he said during the 2-hour meeting, about 15 minutes was focused on football. The other hour and 45 minutes talking about the fact that he does outstanding work off the field, Steven Jackson. And that's what Arthur Blank wants, probably more so than anything else.
Well, and the one thing that, I've always found that made the Falcons so rootable is they've always, we don't have a lot of problem children on the team. It's always a good group of guys. It's a group of guys that's easy to root for. For the most part, they keep their noses clean, with some minor exceptions last year.
You can have some blips here and there like Michael Turner. Listen. Any of us could have been busted at any time for a DUI.
Sure.
However, I don't think you want to, on 85 and Interstate here in Atlanta, if you're buzzed leaving Magic City, a strip club, I don't think you really want to be going 40 miles an hour above the speed limit. That's probably something your attorney would tell you not to do. Well, that and along with driving drunk.
Yeah, absolutely. You just don't want to do it.
John Abraham, I live in this building.
Yeah.
Own 3 condos in Atlantic Station. Somebody is threatening to jump, some crazy broad. He's trying to get into the building because he's lit up.
Yeah, how many chances?
I own 3 condos in this building. Mr. Abraham, we represent the Atlanta Fire Department. We'll take care of this jumper, but we're not letting you in the building or anybody else for that matter that lives in the building. But I'm going to tell you one more time. That's 2 strikes. You cannot come into this building. You don't understand. And that, from what I understand, physical contact was made with a firefighter. And at that point, well, listen, the cuffs have to come on. But John Abraham's not here.
Yeah.
Michael Turner's not here.
Yep.
They're turning over a new leaf. Another guy. Now, John Abraham and Michael Turner on the field, never a problem. The guy that was a problem last year, and he wasn't exactly a choir boy, he didn't fit the Falcon way, but they needed, or at least they thought they needed, a pass rusher, and they thought they had him in Ray Edwards. It didn't really work out. Ray Edwards was about Ray Edwards, and once Ray Edwards got paid, it didn't matter. Do you know what Ray Edwards did? You know what he did? First of all, he's a model, and God bless him. He's in great shape, this, that, the other. But he took a calendar. He went through a calendar shoot. Maybe he was dressed as Santa Claus without pants in one of them. I don't know. He had a very special stocking stuffer. I don't know. The point is, he had his own calendar, and he handed it out to his teammates. Now, again, was it a goof? Maybe.
Well, I got
to... Yeah, I don't really think that's...
It wasn't like he did a calendar for a fundraiser.
No, he did it for his own...
He had his own calendar.
Yes, he did.
And he handed it out to his teammates.
He's very proud of himself, yeah.
I guess that definitely qualifies as being proud of yourself.
Well, I think that began the downward spiral. That, and I think he had 2.5 sacks more than I had in a Falcons uniform. There's that as well.
Right.
But the point is, now you've got guys that are team-oriented, guys that are family-oriented. Whether that's right or wrong, because some are going to say you can't have a bunch of choir boys in there. You can't have all choir boys on your 53-man roster. We'll see how it works out, because the bottom line is Matt Ryan is 1-4 in the postseason. And if you look at the scores, the aggregate scores in the second half of these playoff games, it is astounding how bad the Falcons have been outscored. So is some of the pressure now on Mike Smith as well.
Got to start figuring out those second half adjustments, or more to the point, outmaneuver the other team, because clearly they're figuring out what the Falcons are up to.
It was a miracle finish to beat Seattle, and then I'll never forget working with a bunch of guys. We were all together watching the game in the press box when the Falcons jumped out to that huge lead in the NFC Championship game. I had one guy making reservations, different restaurants in New Orleans. I said, really?
Well, that's
what
jinx.
You're going to do, huh?
That was the jinx right there. Come on. You can't start doing that kind of stuff in the first half. And, the way I look at it is they played, the Falcons sort of played the same game they had been playing all season, and they ran out of those fourth quarter gimmies or miracles. Yeah, they would use them all up.
I was there for a lot of them during the regular season. Carolina, Arizona, certainly coming to mind. The Oakland game. You can't expect to win games like that. And, of course, the playoff game over Seattle as well. They lose to San Francisco, as everybody knows. Colin Kaepernick this past offseason trained with a bunch of Olympic runners and jumpers right here in the city of Atlanta. I guess, Ray, business is business. But if you're in a restaurant somewhere and you see Colin Kaepernick and you say, hey, I recognize you. Who's the guy next to you? Well, that's Dwight Phillips. He won the gold medal in 2004 in the long jump, and he's an Atlanta guy. Aren't you starting to say, wait a minute here? I know Matt Ryan's never going to run a 4.440. That's impossible. I would settle for a 5.440 at times. But he's training right here in the city of Atlanta. But as I said, it's not personal. It's just a business.
Right. Well, is he actually training with these Olympic athletes, or how is that all working? What's the story there? Because, certainly that's insult to injury for us that he's under our nose and he's doing it on our dime. I don't know what to make of that. It's I certainly would never take a shot at the guy or anything, but it certainly does raise some questions.
Well, he is the wave of the future, so they say. He and Russell Wilson. In fact, the entire NFC West is going to be challenging, and also the NFC South is going to be challenging as well. Don't forget, the Falcons went 13-3 last year, all three of their losses coming to teams from the NFC South. They split with the Saints. They split with the Panthers. Should have lost twice to the Panthers, some would say. And they only beat the Buccaneers by a point down at Tampa, and then they lose the regular season finale to the Bucs. And some are saying all three of those teams are going to be better. I don't know if the Falcons are going to be a 13-3 team. I'm guessing. I don't want to look at the schedule and go win, loss, because that's cheap and lazy. But I got to figure when all is said and done, 11-5, 10-6 maybe will be their record this year.
I kind of almost hope it's going to be that good. I just don't. Maybe it's superstition more than anything. The idea that they can come back and put together the same kind of season they put together last year. I think that's just a pipe dream. And then from there, are they going to be rattled? Are they mentally there?
I think you have to get hot at the right time. You look at these teams that have been in Super Bowls as of late. You peak at the right time. You get hot at the right time. Some challenges on the schedule. There's no question about it. When you talk about playing the final game at the old Candlestick Park in San Francisco late in the season, you've got a trip to Green Bay. Of course, you open the season in New Orleans against the Saints. Let me just say one more thing, because I'm reading a lot of these posts out there, and yes, I did something ridiculously stupid that cost me my job. In fact, I'll get to it when we come back, because some people I was ignorant when I did what I did. These people, I think, are just as ignorant. It is offensive interference with yours truly, Nick Cellini.
Oxygen Financial is now open ITP. Come see us at the corner of Peachtree Road and West Paces Ferry to set up a complimentary meeting. Spend an hour with one of our private CFOs and get a free gift. More importantly, you can change your financial future. Go to oxygenfinancial.net or stop in at 3060 Peachtree Road. That's 3060 Peachtree Road. See you soon.
A few more minutes to go here on Offensive Interference with Nick Cellini. My buddy Ray Vogt is here. And, of course, we made the trip to New Orleans together. And we met with the in-laws of Steve Gleason. Big Paul Varisco was the father-in-law, still is the father-in-law. He didn't go anywhere. And also Vinny Varisco is the brother-in-law. They were great to us. But, again, when all of this stuff happened, and I guess to a certain extent it still continues, as I look on some of these message boards, and I shouldn't be reading them, I know.
It can get a little...
Even when things are going well, you shouldn't read a message board because nobody's happy on message boards. But people are trying to say, well, now the Falcons are in real trouble because the Saints, after this happened, are really going to be fired up. No, they're going to be fired up because these two teams are in the same division. They're the best two teams going into the season in this division, and they don't like each other, and they've never liked each other. I don't really think midway through the third quarter, as Matt Ryan is dropping back to pass, and there's some pressure on him, that Charles Grant on the other side is going to be thinking about knock-knock jokes. No, I think he's going to be thinking about taking off the head of Matt Ryan. That's the reality of the situation.
This one's for Cellini.
Yeah. You don't even know who I am. And I had Charles Grant in studio with me multiple times. They're not thinking about that. They're thinking about winning that game. It's just like the Giants now. A couple of Giants players are talking about Tom Coughlin saying, hey, look, we got to make it in here. We got to get back to that Super Bowl because you know why? They're playing it in our building. No, you want to get to the Super Bowl because you want to win a championship.
So if they'd been playing in Florida, we go, we don't. Yeah,
Listen, we won a couple of Super Bowls. It doesn't much matter. But because it's in our building, by God, we got to be there. And we got to make history because no home team has ever hosted a Super Bowl. No, you want to win a championship. That's why you want to go.
That's got to be, that's some of the most absurd stuff I've heard in recent memory. I mean, we could take it or leave it. We'll see.
Listen, we throw caution to the wind. Whatever happens, happens. So, speaking of misinformation, I want to bring something up. I guess a study has been done, and the study shows, I don't know how you do this study. I don't know who you're studying. I don't know where you're going to do this study. But a study shows that less than 2% of people in bars, those people that come in and weigh in on things, give their opinion, their spin on things, less than 2% of people in bars actually know what they're talking about.
Not that I spend a lot of time in bars.
No,
or
not you.
Anything.
You don't enjoy Coors Light. No.
No.
We only set records in a bar for consuming Coors Light, but
that's another story for another show. I would have to agree with that. Sometimes there's people now that you just avoid because the minute you bring something up, they're going to be an expert on the subject. They're going to tell you everything there is to know about the subject, and they're going to be talking out there, and not even be in the ballpark.
I just want to walk into a restaurant and say, hey, I heard that they found the Loch Ness Monster. He was in that lake in Bristol. They were searching for that weapon.
Yeah.
In the Aaron Hernandez case, and they found the Loch Ness Monster. Let me tell you something. They found the Loch Ness Monster 10 years ago. 10 years ago. You don't know that? They don't want you to know that they found the Loch Ness Monster.
Well,
You're the type of guy, though, I don't pay attention to it. You can't help yourself.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
You got to enter into the fray.
Well, on certain different things, we had that incident on the elevator we won't talk about in New Orleans either. The T-shirt that the person was wearing that I had to opine on, and Nick quickly hushed me up so we didn't.
I got enough problems in New Orleans. Exactly. I don't need you arguing with people on elevators.
Yeah, no, you're right. There's crazies everywhere. They all know everything, and the alcohol certainly tunes it all up.
Again, not that you,
not me,
go to bars a lot. No. Not that you drink a lot. We only put away each a case of Coors Light Memorial Day weekend, the Friday of Memorial Day weekend. In this certain bar in suburban Atlanta, we are still legends. I didn't feel like a legend the next day. I didn't feel like a legend the day after that.
Well, I didn't think it was a case because there was only 12 beers. It was the 24-ounce ones.
They were 24-ounce beers. And then you went back on the 4th of July, and I think you did it again. I came close.
Yeah, I think. Yeah.
See, I got a wife. I got to answer to people.
Right.
I got a 4-year-old.
Right, yeah.
You've just got you.
Nice try. I know what your life is really like and how much you answer to other people.
How many times have you been pulled out of a bar? Never. How many times have I been pulled out of a bar with you?
Yes,
multiple times.
You were practically horse collared off of that bar stool that day.
Ray and Nick are not allowed to hang out together on Sundays. That's the unofficial rule. Actually, that's an official rule.
It is an official rule. Bad things will happen. It will not be a good Monday morning. And not so much as a problem for you these days.
No, it's not. You're right. But thanks for the reminder.
Sorry. But I still sort of Monday mornings are pretty busy for me. So. Yeah, no. Well, we started a tradition last year. We were watching the games at my place, me, you, and Don Mojito. Mm-hmm. And we did pretty good for the Falcons, I think, maintaining everybody had the place they had to sit.
That's
we
right.
had the same food every week, and it worked out pretty well, and there was no alcohol.
And the key is, this year we're going to go back to your house. Do you know why? I can't afford the Red Zone channel.
There it is, that too.
I am not working.
On top of that, you don't have any TV to worry about. So
no, I don't. Again, thanks for that reminder. And with that, we're going to wrap up the program. We'll talk more Falcons a little bit later on in the week. I want to thank everybody for subscribing. I want to thank everybody for listening. Remember, we're not going anyplace. I'm going to live in this studio because I've got no other options. It's Offensive Interference with Nick Cellini. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks, Ray.
See ya.